Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Jodo Cast, your Star Wars gaming podcast. This is episode 117. My name is Evan Lewis. I am, of course, joined by Leo Andri.
Howdy.
And Joe Latovsky.
Howdy.
I didn't realize howdy was what we were doing for the whole night. So howdy.
Yep.
Howdy.
Howdy.
It's going to get worse as the night goes on. By the end of the episode, we'll all be talking in really bad, affected Southern accents. And
I've been watching this Justified.
Sipping mint juleps. And
that I can do.
I've been binging, if you will, the show Justified. It takes place in Kentucky.
Just don't.
With
this is
Walton Goggins.
This is too much already.
You have, like, the facial hair to be, like, a Southern gentleman.
He's not talking to me, he's talking to you.
Yeah, talking to you, Joe.
I know. That's the only thing my face can do is the Doc Holliday features.
That's quite a coincidence.
It is. It truly is.
I mean, good for you. That's quite the happy accident. But something else that's not an accident but is happy are all of the people over at patreon.com who have made this happen. So, if you like this or you don't like this, those are the people you can go thank. So, thanks, patrons, for all of this. Again and again. And if you want to know the why and how, the naze nane of the Jodo cast, you can...
I didn't get that one either.
It's an old anime reference.
Yeah.
I figured it was an anime thing. I picked up on the word nani.
Yes.
Nani?
Go to
from the memes.
Patreon.com/thejodocast, and you can find out everything you could ever possibly need and want to know about becoming a patron. So go do that. Or in addition to, go to jodocast.com for that and more, including a link to the Discord, where you can hang out with us all the time. It's pretty cool, if I do say so myself.
It's happening.
It is a happening place. And I don't think we have any new patrons right now, but we do have some interesting events happening. Like, for example...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to mention that we're trying to do new things for our patrons. Make you feel more special than those other folk out there. So, videos that I get done editing early, because I've been releasing a video every Monday on our YouTube channel since January, which I'm actually pretty proud that I managed to keep up. If I get them edited early, ahead of time, patrons can just watch it as soon as it's ready, rather than waiting for the release date. And as we sit here right now, we are being recorded on video. And if you'd rather just watch us talk unedited, patrons get that as well. If you'd rather, I mean, you could listen to an edited version or watch an unedited version.
Patrons get the privilege of looking at Joe's spectacular Cats in Space shirt he's wearing today.
Yeah, I bought this shirt. It was a last minute purchase because I had ordered a Nebula looking shirt, and it wasn't going to come in time for Halloween party because I needed it I needed a space shirt for my costume, which was Universal Healthcare.
You have the worst puns for your Halloween costumes. I hate them so much.
Because I looked like space and I had doctor stuff. So I wore this inside out, and then it just turned into, well, I have a Cats in Space shirt now.
Nothing wrong with that. What other events do we have going on?
We have, since April, coming up on the fourth number of the Jodo of Painting, where Evan takes us through a world of miniature painting, and no one submitted any fan art yet, but that would be welcome too. Or we have a community painting challenge / endeavor where we all just kind of paint something following the guidelines or themes or challenges that Evan sets forth each month. And then we get to look at what we all did the previous month. It's been for sure keeping me actually painting. I probably wouldn't have painted anything this month if there wasn't the thing. Because if you participate, not only does your artwork get showed off in the video each month, but you get a sticker.
Ooh.
I haven't stuck mine anywhere yet, but I like it.
Excellent. And it's the stickers, for those of you that aren't watching this, are some Leo original JodoCast art.
Right. And the Jodo of painting, it's not restricted to patrons or anything. Anybody can participate. Everyone should participate. The goal is to have too many people participate so that it's hard for us to keep up with the editing. But we've had good turnout. I think it's been pretty successful.
I'd say so too. And actually, painting is about the only thing that I've been doing Star Wars related. That's kind of all I've been up to. Besides Animal Crossing and Pokemon expansion. Haven't really played too much other Star Wars. What about you guys?
I just saw Leo sorting his CCG collection.
Yeah, tonight I discovered a foil Daughter of Skywalker in my Endor cards that I didn't even know I had. So that's exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm glad that my gaming store is starting to get shipments again, so I can buy more binder pages and sleeves for all my Star Wars cards, so I can get them sorted.
You sleeve each card?
All the ones that are going in my binder right now, yeah.
Isn't that that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I've gone through 600-700 sleeves so far.
But they're already in a binder.
Yeah, but what if I want to take them out of the binder? Then the way they won't get wear and tear sliding in and out of the binder.
I guess.
It's double wrapped.
I'll give you an extra slack because it's even more of like a collectible than, the Star Wars LCG or something.
And
most of my card games, I don't sleeve all of them, and I just sleeve the ones I'm going to be playing with that day.
Yeah, and it's not, and plus then they're all ready to go if I want to sleeve them up for decks, or double sleeve them, I guess you would say, because so all the sleeves I'm putting them in are what they're called perfect fit sleeves, so they fit exactly over the card. And then those are meant to be then put inside a regular card sleeve.
Oh, do you also have the little coin collector white gloves when you handle them?
No, but I should.
Keep from getting your finger grease on the cards?
I should, because sometimes I'll I will come down after eating a meal and I'll be like, I'm going to sort some cards. And then I'll be like, nah, my hands feel too greasy after eating, cheeseburgers or whatever. So
I've been playing things, apparently. Darkside Rising arrived, that board game that I bought on eBay.
Joe made videos about it. Go watch it.
I did. We did a gameplay video and a review video, and it's actually pretty fun. We played episode 1 Racer. That video's up already. That was actually really fun. I actually played that on my own time recently. I did one race, got in some more FUD, some more time with FUD. I played a little bit of Empire at War a few weeks ago. Just some multiplayer space combat, which was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Been painting my Legion stuff.
I wish they would update that game like they just did for Battlefront. so
Yeah.
we could play together.
Yeah. Because I played online with a friend, but he had it on Steam. You have it on Good Old Games, and we can't play together, which feels really ratty. Like, we're on PC, we should be able to play together. Did some more Fallen Order stuff. Those videos are still rolling out. Did some Battlefront, only because we wanted to record a battle chat video, which is up, about Squadrons. We played a bunch of Starfighter Assault only in first person, which was interesting. I think that's everything I've been playing.
Well, funny you should mention Star Wars Squadrons, because we're about a week out from having seen the trailers, and I think between the two of you, your hype is definitely far surpassing mine. But we're not going to talk about that strictly tonight. We are going to take a look at a history of Star Wars, would we say flight sims or Squadron
Just sort of
games?
like just kind of getting to fly starfighters in Star Wars games.
Yes, that's the genre.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the games we highlighted are more along the lines of a flight sim type thing, but not necessarily all of them. And also, like what we're going to be talking tonight isn't by any means an exhaustive list of every Star Wars game that you get to pilot a starfighter in. I mean, if we did that, that's like 75-80% of all Star Wars games have at least one, level where you're flying a starfighter in. Instead, I tried to focus more on ones where that's like the primary thing you're doing, or they were just kind of cool games, or like the starfighter sections were kind of cool or interesting, or I just liked the game, so I wanted to mention it. That's the criteria.
I'm excited to learn as we sit next to the fire in the library next with the big leather chair. Leo cracks open his history book. Because most of these games I didn't play. A lot of these ones are older games that were kind of before my time. Most of them are actually sitting in my Steam library right now, but I haven't tried them yet.
I feel like I should go dig out my old Guide to the Star Wars Universe, second edition, and pretend like I'm reading from that. But that, again,
I thought you were gonna
that really only works for the patrons who are watching us on videos.
Do you have a pipe?
No.
A monocle?
No.
Smoking jacket.
I thought you were going to say you should go find like the manuals from the boxes of these old games.
I do have my old. I do have the X-wing Prima strategy guide for the old X-wing game, which was actually really cool because it was like it actually had like story narrative in the guide, not just descriptions of the missions. But we're getting ahead of ourselves by talking about X-Wing now. So anyways, the first game I thought we'd talk about is one of the first and oldest Star Wars games out there, and that is Star Wars the arcade game, which some of you...
Is that not the first ever Star Wars video game?
It may be. I'm honestly not 100% sure. There was a couple other games that came out the same year on the Atari, and I'm honestly not 100% sure on the exact order that they came out in that year. But yeah, so this is, if not the first, one of the very first games. But yeah, it was just a game where it was actually really cool for its time. It was wireframe graphics, but it looked 3D. And so you're flying in the cockpit of an X-Wing, attacking the Death Star, and there's 3 different levels, I guess, where the first one you're just flying towards the Death Star and you got to blow up TIE fighters as they come towards you. And you don't actually really get to fly the ship. You just kind of are moving your targeting thing around the screen and shooting what's coming at you and stuff. And then the second one, you're like flying over the surface of the Death Star. And you got to, again, blow up TIE fighters, but there's also like turbo laser turrets on the surface that shoot at you and stuff. And then the final mission, you fly down the trench and then blow up the Death Star. And then if you do that, then you just kind of start all over again at the beginning. And I think, if I remember right, it ramps up the difficulty a little bit, and you just kind of keep going until you're dead and see how high of a score you can get. I don't know. Have you never played this one, Joe? Because they did actually used to have one at West Acres in Fargo at the movie theater.
I don't think I've... Oh, you can... Wait. No, I've never played it. I saw one actually in the mall here, but it was... it didn't look like it was on... What year did this come out? Was this
I
late 80s, early 80s?
Yeah, it was in the 80s if I remember right.
83. Produced by Atari.
I was going to say 82, but I guess not.
You can get one for $520. I think it's like a remake one that you can like put in your home.
It could be actually there is a one of those like 1-up arcade things.
That's what I'm looking at right now.
Those are those garbage mini ones that are like only they're like scaled down by like they're like 75% scale or something like that. So they're just like you have to hunch down to play. They're really cool, like if you're a kid, I bet, because they're like just the right size for you. But for an adult, I think they're really dumb.
How much? Oh, it's
the barcade here in Fargo has a Star Wars arcade cabinet, which is kind of cool.
You can get one with a bench at Walmart for only $500.
Ooh.
I want to see if there was any original ones for sale.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any with a quick Google. Oh, $5,000 for an original one.
Neat. So we're gonna jump ahead a few years to the era of the Super Nintendo and talk about just a couple, and talk about Super Star Wars. I mean, like I said, between the arcade game and Super Star Wars is by no means. There were by no means no games where you flew ships. But again, they're just not that interesting to talk about, I don't think. But in Super Star Wars, there was the last couple levels of the game. Again, you're flying an X-Wing attacking the Death Star. The first one is like a third person. It's like behind the ship, and you're flying over the surface of the Death Star. And you, it's all like those awesome like Mode 7 graphics that the Super Nintendo had. That at the time, I mean, nowadays obviously looks really hokey, but at the time it was pretty amazing stuff. And then the second one is you're actually inside the cockpit flying down the trench. And again, for the Super Nintendo, I thought that the trench level looked fantastic. They did in the sequels, Super Empire Strikes Back and Super Return of the Jedi, did also have some space combat stuff too, but is or pretty much the same kind of stuff. Like in Empire Strikes Back, there's a flying through the asteroid field level, and then like one where you're in like Luke's X-Wing and you got to fly to Cloud City and shoot down a bunch of cloud cars or something like that. Just like in the movie.
Follow the traffic regulations. No.
I mean, it's that's fine. I mean, it's very accurate to the movies. Just like in the original Super Star Wars, when Luke fights the giant scorpion and the lava monster thing inside the sandcrawler. Everyone remembers that part of the movie.
It'd be fun to like write a novelization of the movie, but based on those games.
There was an even weirder one before Super Star Wars. It was made by the same company, I believe, that made Super Star Wars. On the original Nintendo, they made just one called Star Wars. And like the very first boss you fight is like Darth Vader on Tatooine.
But he's
after
a scorpion.
After you shoot him up a bunch, he turns into the scorpion. And you're like,
and you find out Luke Skywalker was just really high.
So that was...
They just called the game Star Wars, not Star Wars the video game, like every other licensed game in the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I think it was just called Star Wars, if I remember right.
How did people know it wasn't the movie? I'm being passively aggressively critical of licensed game makers. So if you're out there, licensed game makers, stop putting the board game or the video game on your products. People get it.
Well, I hope Joe, you get a chance one day to play Street Fighter the movie, the game.
God, that game sucked. But back to Star Wars games. Next, I'd say is X-Wing, which is probably one of, if you're talking about games where you're flying starfighters in, is definitely one of the most important games in the genre, I guess you could say.
Is this not the game that Squadrons is kind of pulling a lot of its inspiration from?
Definitely. I mean, not just necessarily this game, but this series, which would be, there's X-Wing, there was TIE Fighter, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, X-Wing Alliances, which I realize I did not put on this list, but that's okay, because that was the crappiest one of the whole series. But anyways, X-Wing. It was a really cool, more of a actual flight simulator than any of these other ones. So you're actually immersed in the role of a rebel pilot. You're going on all these different missions that, culminates in you attacking the Death Star, as every Star Wars game should. You get to pilot a bunch of different ships. You get the A-Wing. In this one, you get the A-Wing, the X-Wing, and the Y-Wing. Eventually, they added the B-Wing in an expansion pack. I believe that was all of the ships in the game. In that one, there's more in the later games, but I think in the first one it was just those. But I don't know. It was pretty cool because it introduced stuff that you didn't do in some of these other earlier games. Like, you actually have to manage your power. Like your engines or your reactor on your ship can only put out so much power, which you have to split between shields, weapons, and your engines. So, put more towards your shields, and obviously they'll regenerate faster, but you can't be regenerating power for your lasers, and your engines are going to go slower. So you kind of have to play with power management and even just shield management. There's times when you're going to want to have your shields balanced front and back. Other times you want shields double front, double back, depending on exactly what the situation is. So it added a level of complexity that you hadn't had in other Star Wars games flying these ships. And for me, let's see, what was I? I would have been 12 when the game came out.
I just looked it up. It's 1993, only 1 year after Super Star Wars.
Was it 93? Okay, no, that's right. Rebel Assault came out in 95. So it came out in 93. I didn't even have...
some floppy disks.
I actually didn't even have a PC computer yet. So it came out when I was 9 or 10, and then I would have actually got it when I was like 12. But yeah, there was 2 expansions for the game, Imperial Assault and Imperial Pursuit, and like I said, also the B-Wing expansion, which added the B-Wing ship and a bunch of more missions and things like that. Then in 95, there was Rebel Assault, which was actually the very first PC game I ever owned. Yeah, I remember we got a PC, and then for my birthday, I got Rebel Assault and Wing Commander Academy. Those were the 2 games I got.
Is this the full motion video one?
No. So it was actually Rebel Assault 2 that had the full motion video stuff.
Which was interesting because it was the first. Well, this is Rebel Assault 2, but since you asked, that was the first Star Wars footage that had been filmed in a decade, I think.
Well, that game came out in 97, yeah, so something like that.
I'm wondering about the years on that, because I got Rebel Assault 2 Christmas of 95.
Star Wars Rebel Assault is a rail shooter video game developed and published by LucasArts for DOS, Apple Macintosh, Sega CD, and 3DO Interactive Multiplayer systems. I just learned that 3DO Interactive Multiplayer was a console. I didn't even know this console existed.
What, the 3DO?
Maybe it did come out in 95.
It says 93.
Well, the first one 93.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Just ignore the dates. I'm not actually putting dates for most of this stuff. I've just kind of got it in about the order stuff was released.
Yeah,
so anyways, Rebel Assault, like you said, it was an on the rails arcade shooter. So the game the game basically controlled the path you flew. You could adjust a little bit, up, down, side to side and stuff, but for the most part, you're just flying on the path that it chose for you, and you get to shoot at the targets. It was a fun game. It was actually, though it became very easy once you kind of learned where everything was.
Because it's kind of the same every time.
Yeah, it's the same every time. So it was almost more like
Dragon's Lair.
A combination of memorization and then you being able to move your mouse or joystick in accordance with what your memory was. Which, by the way, get a joystick for the game. That was the one thing, is that we got the game for my birthday, and it was, like I said, it was the first PC game I ever had, and it was really hard to play at the time with the mouse to fly, I was lucky if I ever beat the same level or the first level where you're just like flying through Beggar's Canyon in a T-16. And so I had to beg my parents to buy me a joystick then too. So, and then once I had that, game was a breeze. And then, like we kind of mentioned a little bit ago, then a couple years later, Rebel Assault 2 came out. Rebel Assault 2: The Hidden Empire. And like we said, it was basically the same stuff all over again, except it had the full motion video cutscenes, which were generally kind of hokey and corny, but were cool at the time because, like you said, there was the first like Star Wars footage that had been filmed in a long time. And it was also and then they added in these really weird and not very fun third person levels where you're out of your ship and you're just standing in a hallway, and it's almost like one of those like those arcade shooters like Area 51 or whatever, where stormtroopers pop out from behind a box, and then you're like pew 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 and you shoot them down. It was not good.
Well, I have Rebel Assault 1 and 2 in my library, and I'm looking at just some of the screens of it, and I think we should play this because it looks really goofy.
Rebel Assault 2, I believe that was the first appearance of the TIE Phantom also.
Yes,
that was the whole thing, is you were trying to stop the production of and blow up the factory that's making these cloaking TIEs and stuff.
Called it the Phantomer.
The Phantomer.
The Spooker.
The Spoopy. TIE Spoopy.
It's got to have an ER at the end. If it wants to fit in with the other TIEs, the Spooker.
There was a Star Wars arcade, which is different from Star Wars the arcade game. And this one...
Is this like a 90s one?
Yeah, this one... so it was a similar...
Sega, right?
Yes, it was the one from Sega. So it was first an arcade game, and then later was a launch title for the Sega 32X.
Wow.
But So yeah, the gameplay itself was very similar to the old Star Wars the arcade game, except obviously more updated graphics and stuff like that. And
So it was still you don't control where you fly. You're just picking where you're aiming.
yeah, kind of. There's not a lot of control to it, and then at the end you're but you're blowing up the second Death Star this time instead of the first one. So we
finally moved on.
Yeah. So yeah, I actually own this 32X cartridge, but I don't have a 32X, so I can't use it.
Did anyone?
Someone did. Some people did.
There's probably one guy out there who's like, it was the best gaming console ever made.
Every console's got its stands.
When I went to video game design camp, there was a guy who had every single console ever made up until that point, with the exception of maybe like one, and he had them all laid out, and somehow he trusted us like dumb teenagers to like look at them. But he was very adamant that the Dreamcast was the best console of all time.
I mean, he wasn't really wrong.
Yeah.
It got gypped.
It did.
And then he was like, oh, and I got this old console, and we're going to play Custer's Revenge. And we're like, what's that?
What?
And
why was he showing Custer's Revenge to a bunch of kids?
Was this the same?
Did he also...
Definitely kids.
Underworld?
Did he also whip out a copy of Beat 'em and Eat 'em after that?
I'm going to have to look that one up. I mean, we were probably like sophomores and juniors in high school. But still, it's not something you should show kids.
Nope.
Yeah.
Other than that, those video game design camp was fun.
Sounds like it.
It's at Crookston College, the agricultural college, put it on. It's so weird.
It's all right. It's all right. When I was a kid in like junior high and high school, I went to computer camp at Concordia.
The one thing I still remember about video game design camp is
we're still in this, huh?
No.
I don't know what you want to call him, the teacher guy. We were looking at cloth physics.
It's camp. They're counselors.
Sure. It didn't really. Camp was in the name. Didn't feel much like it, but he was very adamant that these cloth physics we were looking at were never going to get better than that.
Oh.
And we were like, what? I'm like, I just played a baseball game last week that had a better cloth physics. And I remember every time I see cloth physics in a game, I go, that guy was an idiot. Like, this is way better than the graphics we had 10 years ago or whatever that was, 12 years ago. So anyways, if you're out there, guy, you were wrong about cloth physics.
You know, what if he was a patron and he's all like, I remember Joe back in my class, and so like, I'm gonna throw some cash to them, and now he's all like, man, you, and he just went and canceled his patronage. Way to go, Joe.
Damn it, I'm sorry. But you gotta admit, cloth physics have come a long way.
They sure
no getting
have.
around it.
Moving on from cloth physics, there was we kind of mentioned this already when I talked about X-Wing, but TIE Fighter sequel to X-Wing, but it really took everything that X-Wing did and made everything better. They improved the graphics, the missions were better laid out. This game actually had like an interesting story with some cool cutscenes and stuff. I mean, they did have that back in X-Wing, but I don't know. It never. The story just never really felt that engaging in the campaign.
The plot of TIE Fighter. What's the plot of TIE Fighter? He plays Merrick Steele, right?
Yeah. And so it's been a long time. Yeah, Thrawn is in it. You actually end up being under Thrawn's command for a bunch of the game. But if I remember right, and it's been a while since I've played, and so I could be confusing it with some of its expansions, exactly the story, but there's like a rogue Moff or something like that who wants to try and take over the Empire. And this might be and this might not happen until, because there was the Defender of the Empire expansion that I think added the TIE Defender. And so this all might be just the plot of the expansion. But yeah, anyways, he wants to kind of like take over the Empire. And you defend the Emperor. Like there's one mission where the Emperor's flying in his Lambda shuttle and they get ambushed and you have to defend the Emperor's shuttle and stuff. That's pretty cool. And and then so you save the Emperor and then go kick this guy's ass. That's about what it boils down to. I could be forgetting some details because, like I said, I haven't played the game in 20 years at this point. I don't know, something like that. It's been a long time. Well, I mean, I have played the game, but only like a few missions. Anyways, yeah, I did.
I see you've noted that it has some features such as you can match the target's speed. That seems like something I want in Squadrons now.
Yeah, they didn't have it in X-Wing. They added it for TIE Fighter, and it was really great because it's like you just that was always a problem in X-Wing where you'd get behind someone and they would either be going faster than you and they'd speed off, or you'd be going too fast, and then it was just really hard to adjust your speed to match theirs. So you could kind of just stay behind them and pour lasers into them. But in TIE Fighter it was great. You'd swing in behind someone, hit the match speed key, and you would match your speed to what they were, and then just then you could, as long as you were a decent pilot, you could just sit behind them and pour lasers into their ass until they blew up.
I wonder, it seems unlikely that might be a feature in Squadrons. Because on your little tactical readout, I think it also shows the distance to your target, so maybe they expect you to just, you see that number getting bigger, you should speed up.
Well, I mean, they had the distance marker or distance thing in the readout on X-Wing and TIE Fighter too. I guess so. There was some space combat in Shadows of the Empire. I forget, was Shadows of the Empire a launch title for the N64?
Pretty close to it. It might have been off by like a couple months, but not too far out. I did get it for my birthday, which would have been September of 1996.
Yeah. So there's really not much space flying in the game, but I do just want to mention it for two reasons. One, so I can say that Dash Rendar sucks, and two,
sucks.
Just because it was actually the final level, the one where basically the final level is a big space battle above Coruscant, if I remember right. And
correct.
It was, yes, and it was actually an influence on some games that were to come down the road. So I just wanted to mention it. Take note.
Besides Dash Rendar, is the game all right? I haven't played it actually.
It depends. There was there's some games. So like the two things that stand out the most about the game to me is one of the very first levels is you're flying a snow speeder and you have to trip the damn AT-ATs. And it was fun. It was really cool for the time, but it was difficult as hell. Like anytime you flew a little bit too far away from the AT-AT, your cable would snap and then you'd have to start over. And then, but if you turn too tight, then you just crash your ass into one of their legs. It took a lot of practice, but once you got it down, it was cool. The biggest thing was controlling Dash, like in the actual like third person shooter levels of the game. I always thought he was a pain in the ass to control, and the game is like so full of cliffs, and I feel like I was just falling off of cliffs nonstop in that game.
Did it have a dash button?
No.
I don't think so.
Thanks, everybody. That's our show.
Yeah.
It's definitely a product of, the late 90s, early 3D polygon platformers that really don't hold up at all today.
See, but that's funny though. I mean, we always make that excuse because we're like, oh, it was this just the start of 3D and people didn't get it, and yet, people still hold up like the very first one, Mario 64, as like an example of perfect platforming. It was like the very first one, and it was just seemed like everything that came after it just never was quite able to match up to it, at least of that era.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That's what Nintendo does. They set bars that no one else can reach.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you can kind of cut it some slack because it was the beginning of an era, but at the same time, it still came after Mario 64, which definitely got the 3D platforming type stuff much better. But it was a fun game. I enjoyed playing it back in the day, even if Dash Rendar sucks.
I remember watching my brother play it for a little bit because we'd go over to my uncle's and he had an N64, and we're like, but we could be playing Mario Kart, which has split screen. So then we never bothered with Shadows of the Empire.
That's an okay decision, to be honest. I'd probably rather play Mario Kart 2. For me, Shadows of the Empire was sort of like those. It was a one and done kind of game. Like once I had beat it, I didn't feel the desire to go back and do anything with that game ever again. A game I did go back to a lot was X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter, which was the third game in this series. Which again, they kind of amped everything up, especially in the graphics department. They really improved the graphics in this one, and in fact, it was the first game in the series that supported 3D acceleration, which is very exciting. Unlike the first two, it didn't have any kind of story campaign. It was really meant to focus all on multiplayer and let you play over the internet with your friends, which was something really new and novel kind of at the time.
What year was this?
98?
Probably around 98 or so.
It was 97.
97. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if your mom got a phone call and she answered the phone, your game would stop.
Yeah, it was cool times. Yeah, they did eventually add a single player campaign with an expansion called Balance of Power, because some people did kind of complain about that there was no single player campaign. I mean, you still could play just battles against the AI. But I don't know, just wasn't as interesting as if you had some kind of story behind it. Let's see. So this is the reason I wanted to mention, the main reason I wanted to mention Shadows of the Empire is, so here now, going to talk about Rogue Squadron. And Rogue Squadron really kind of came to be from the snowspeeder and the space level in Shadows of the Empire. Is basically people at LucasArts and stuff sort of looked at that and were like, this is really cool. What if we made a whole game that was just this? And so that's what they did. It was one of the first N64 games to support the expansion pack. You didn't need it, but if you did, the game played at a higher resolution.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, it didn't really matter. It still looked like crap by today's standards, even with the expansion pack. So the story kind of I actually enjoyed the story of this game a fair bit. The game kind of follows Wedge and Rogue Squadron, and your first couple missions, you just kind of are doing random go fight the Empire stuff. But then you end up capturing this Imperial pilot named Kason Moore, and she defects and to the rebellion and starts helping you out and gives you information on this Imperial Moth who like has a plan to try and capture Thyfera and gain control.
Who's Thyfera?
What? It's a planet.
Oh.
Let me get to it. and
Thyfera is not a person; it's a planet.
Yeah, it would basically and gain control of the galaxy's Bacta supply because that's the planet that Bacta comes from. And so all except for like the last mission.
Were there anything particularly innovative about the flight controls in this game compared to the X-Wing series?
Well, I mean, this was an N64 game. X-Wing was PC, so there you're...
It was very much an arcade shooter, is, I guess, what we would have called it at the time.
Yeah, I mean, you're just flying with the one single joystick on the N64 controller, and the final mission was kind of interesting because it jumped ahead in the timeline and was actually set during the Dark Empire comic book series, and it's a mission you're supposed to defend Mon Calamari. And like the Empire's attacking with those world devastator things, and you get to fly a V-wing, which is cool, but the mission is hard as, which was not as cool.
So this is a V-wing, like a different V-wing than what I think of when you say V-wing.
Or did I say
E-wing?
V-wing or was it E-wing?
An E-wing, probably.
Yeah.
E-wing.
E-wing, not a V-wing. E-wing.
E-wings are ugly, and I don't like them.
Yeah, they're fine.
They just look like somebody was like, okay, let's design something like an X-Wing, but just kind of more boring and ugly. And just, a little more boring? Make it a little more boring. Okay, good. Let's stick with that.
Okay, let's make something like an X-Wing, only make it 90% more Star Viper-y. And I'm talking about the... Battlestar Galactica Viper, not the
right. It does look like it belongs in a different sci-fi universe to me.
But yeah, at any rate, like it said, it was a really cool. I thought it was a really cool game for the time. It was a ton of fun. There was also a weird secret level you could unlock where you could pilot an AT-ST. Only it was really weird because it used both the player 1 and player 2 controllers to pilot it. So one player was the legs and the other player was the head. Or you could try do it both as one person, just with both controllers. So it's kind of a fun
That's
level.
what I want more of. Multi-user vehicles.
So there was a couple. Besides this one on the N64, there were 2 sequels on the GameCube. There were some sequels. There was at least 2 different sequels that got to the planning stages on the Wii, but those all never came to be, unfortunately.
Yeah, I remember that.
So here's one you maybe finally have played, Star Wars Starfighter. Did you play that at all?
Nope. I think I have Jedi Starfighter on my Xbox right now because it was free. But yeah, we didn't get a gaming console until we got an Xbox, and it was already a couple years into the Xbox's life cycle.
Yeah. So this one was on PlayStation and Xbox, I think. Or was it PS2 and Xbox?
PS2, I
Something
think.
like that. But at any rate, I never really played this one myself, other than like demos in the stores and things like that. I maybe rented it once or something like that. To be honest, I thought this was just another Rogue Squadron game with an Episode 1 skin slapped on it. It wasn't until many years later that I even realized this was from a different developer and everything, and not part of the same series. So
The box says 3 heroes, 1 enemy, all action.
Does it really?
At least on the wiki page, on the PlayStation box, it's got a Vulture Droid, a Naboo Starfighter, and the Skurg. Is that what it was called? Because they released that in X-Wing miniatures.
Yeah.
And we're like, where did this ship come from? Oh, it came from this old video game.
Yep. So yeah, you mentioned Jedi Starfighter. That was the sequel to this game. It was, kind of more of the same. Although I felt like Jedi Starfighter felt, to me, at least when I was flying, felt more distinct from like Rogue Squadron than the first one, the Starfighter, did. And again, like I said, maybe it's just having not played it much and it being many years since I touched the game, but I always just thought it was Rogue Squadron. Did you ever play Star Wars Galaxies, Evan? I forget.
I owned a collector's edition box that someone in the army gave me, but I never booted it up or started a profile or anything because I had it right before I left for Iraq. And then when I came home, it was like, hey, get WoW. Okay, so I got WoW. And
that's what the army told you?
Yes.
Like, soldier, get WoW, not Galaxies. Yep. This is the official stance of the U.S. Armed Forces.
Yep, and it was based entirely on Leo informing the military that jump to light speed was Garbo. He was
the military's MMO consultant. Yep. We brought in the best.
It was a different time, it was a different time.
The president is like, so tell me, what do we got to get these boys playing?
At that time, it was like,
I've told you the best.
We're sending people over. We're doing the troop surge. We just need to know what they need when they go over there. Mr. Leo.
May I call you Leo?
Yeah. So, Star Wars Galaxies MMO game didn't start out with any starship stuff in it,
or Jedi.
No, Jedi were in there from the very beginning. No one had figured out how to unlock them.
Really hard to do, right?
It wasn't really, really hard. It was really time consuming. Was all it was, really.
All I know is there was that great video essay on YouTube by somebody about how Jedi ruined that game and killed it.
No, they're not wrong. Well, honestly, I mean, Sony Online Entertainment did plenty to ruin that game all on their own. It was a cool game that they somehow managed to continue to make worse and worse with every patch they released for it. It was actually a really, really, really great feat, I think, on their part to consistently maintain that level of But anyways, the one expansion that they had was called Jump to Lightspeed, which, as the name may suggest, added starships to the game, which I was really excited about. The game, it came out, or actually no, I got invited into the beta test for Jump to Lightspeed, and so I fired that up. I played for a while. I'll be honest. Again, it's been quite a few years since I played, so my memories of exactly what I hated about it are pretty fuzzy. I just remember hating it enough that was the thing that finally made me quit the game and cancel my subscription. So, and I know at least some of our patrons are actually really big fans of the space combat in Star Wars Galaxies. So sorry to you guys. You're wrong, but it's cool. No, it just, I don't know. It wasn't for me. Like I said, I don't even remember why I hated it.
I'm picturing like some sort of like flashback / reveal moment in the sitcom that is our lives, where it cuts back to you playing, and one of the keys on your keyboard is just clearly broken, but you don't notice, and that's why it's so frustrating to play. It's just because your keyboard's broken. This game is the worst. I'm canceling my subscription, and then it cuts to the other guys who are just playing it and having a good time.
No, I thought you were gonna say, and then it like plays like that Arrested Development like credits music or whatever.
I'm just saying that's my theory, is that you had faulty hardware and blamed it on the game.
Who knows? Like I said, it's been so long, I couldn't tell you why it was bad. I'm just going to tell you it was bad, and if you disagree with me, I'm going to argue with you with no facts or knowledge to back it up.
I mean, that is the modern way.
It's the American way.
It's current year. That's how we do things.
Yep. Here's a game that Joe has played.
Yeah, I bet you've played Battlefront 2.
This Battlefront 2, 2005, I'm assuming we're talking about.
Yes.
I don't know if it still is, but it might be close to the game I put the most hours into of any video game ever. I'm not sure if that's the case. There's a lot of other games that could rival that. But at least for a long time, that was probably easily the case. The Starfighter combat in that game was really fun and good. My biggest issue was it autocorrects which way is up. So if you flip upside down, it'll slowly flip you back.
Yeah.
Which was annoying because I'm like, I'm intelligent enough to know that there is no up and down in space. Please stop correcting me.
Yeah.
But
which way is up?
Well, the other weird thing about it is the bomber class, they shot out like little torpedoes that lobbed downwards. Even if you flipped upside down, they would still curve in the same direction, which was annoying. But that mode was one of the things I really like about it that I wish we'd gotten in different games is the being able to fit two people in one ship. On the Hoth, you could put your friend in the back seat and he could run the harpoon. You couldn't actually use the harpoon if you didn't have another player back there, or at least an AI. But in space, like if you got everybody on the shuttle, like there's this like seats in the turrets, and there's even one seat that just launches a missile, and then you get to fly the missile around. The Y-wing, your friend could hop in and he controls the turret while you fly around. It was very cool and fun, especially because the person who is not flying is usually pretty disoriented because they're like forced into first person in this turret while you're doing all these like flips and stuff. But Starfighter mode was really fun, and you could board the enemy ship and go blow up their like things, which kind of made it less fun because that was the easiest way to win, was getting out of your ship. But
I don't know. I really like that mode too, and it's, I think listeners know I've never been a really very big fan of the Battlefront series in any way, from the original series or the EA series. But the Starfighter mode in this I genuinely really enjoyed, and as far as I'm concerned, it's the high point of the whole series.
The Starfighter modes in the modern ones, the one in 2015 wasn't very good, and it wasn't actually even in space. It was all like planetary thing. But they did add the Death Star expansion, which I thought was actually really cool, the Death Star map, because it was on the Death Star surface, and there was a bunch of like, it wasn't the trench, it was just a bunch of little trenches going everywhere, and then there were like little holes in the trenches. Well, there was like angles too, so you could like pull a 90-degree angle down another trench. But then there was also like bits of like the superstructure you would recognize from Return of the Jedi. So it had like the A New Hope feel plus the Return of the Jedi feel, where you're flying on the surface and there's turrets and you can duck into the trench and turn a corner, and now you're in all these like superstructure bits where you've got to fly really precisely. And I thought that was a really fun map, and it was really cool. And they had the mode was neat where it would like nominate 3 people on the team, but they have to like hit these checkpoints and get to the end so they could blow up the Death Star. And so you were, the Empire team got notified, and so you had the whole team chasing you down as you're bobbing and weaving through these like trenches and stuff. So I thought that was really cool. The newest Battlefront Starfighter mode I enjoy it, but it's not particularly special. It's definitely better than the previous game. as far as controls go. I don't mind them.
I couldn't get into them. And, whatever.
I enjoyed the first few times, like after I kind of got the feel for the controls in 2015. Like, I felt like I could actually do something in that version, in that mode, rather than any other mode, but that didn't really last long either. That was just discouraging on every level. But let me tell you about a really good game, or at least a game that I liked that had a couple versions of Starfighter combat. And that's the Old Republic. And when it launched, it had a very on-railsy, almost Rebel Assault vibe shooter to it, and it wasn't good.
That's the one I tried, and I'm like, this is dumb.
Yeah, like they're sort of fun to do like one time.
And get some credits out of it.
Yeah, but to like, there was like all kinds of stuff like where you'd have to like grind on them to get like certain gear and stuff like that and do these stupid daily quests and stuff. And it's like, because it's just the same over and over again.
Yeah, even if it was like a harder level, it was just the same but harder.
Yeah, and some of the environments you flew through were kind of cool and stuff, but again, it was like cool to do like one time or two, or but not that interesting to go back and redo like when you made a new character or like to grind on or anything like that.
But within a couple years, they did finally release a PvP arena style 12v12 Starfighter mode, which, we'd been asking for since before the launch. And it was one of those things where just like, well, we'll see. We got plenty of other things to work on. But when they released Galactic Starfighter, they released a very robust mode that they kept adding on to.
Yeah, I was honestly really surprised. This ended up like by the time this had come out, I was pretty jaded on Star Wars: The Old Republic at that point. But the Galactic Starfighter mode was actually surprisingly legit. It was fun to play those Starfighter arenas. It wasn't like first person like Squadrons is going to be. It was third person. So you were like the camera was outside the ship, but it was 12v12, but it's probably the closest to experience you could get to what we're probably going to get out of Star Wars Squadrons.
Lots of customization.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, it was very interesting how they integrated some of the other parts of the game into this one, because you could have your companions as co-pilots and gunners, and they would all have their own unique buffs and abilities to bring into it. And that's on top of just being able to pick from different role-oriented ships, and then putting new components on them, and being able to get different styles and customizing just the look and not just how they perform. But yeah, I was also just very impressed that a couple years into a game that, we'd kind of already written off, and they insert a really viable new mode into a completely different game, really, is what it is from the whole rest of the experience.
It's kind of funny, like when they tried to do things that you wouldn't have seen and say like, wow, because that was always my biggest complaint, is like I'd play the game and it was like, I just really felt like I was playing WoW with lightsabers instead of swords.
That sounds like a good thing.
Yeah, but at the time, like I was already kind of burnt out on WoW, so doing more WoW, just slightly different, didn't appeal that much to me. Like, and plus, I felt like we were promised more KOTOR style storytelling than we actually got. Until I feel like they finally made good on that in the Knights of the Fallen Empire stuff. But that's a different story. Where was I? What was I saying? Oh, yeah. I don't know.
You're talking about the Starfighter mode in World of Warcraft.
Oh, yeah. I was saying, no, I thought Old Republic, when it did stuff that you wouldn't see in like Warcraft, is where it shined the most. Like this Galactic Starfighter mode. It was great. Hutball's totally different than like just the normal like oh, let's go fight style PvP. I mean, I guess you could say it's very similar to like Capture the Flag, but it's also not. You know what I mean? Hutball was a ton of fun. I loved playing Hutball. That was still probably my favorite thing to do in that game. But yeah, and again, even with the like super story focused Knights of the Fallen Empire and whatever the other one was, there was the 2 expansions that took place there that told that story. Anyways, again, they just feel totally different than something you get from WoW. So, and those were the best things about the game. But anyways, I guess we were more trying to talk about the Starfighter stuff here. But yeah, so it was cool. If you ever do resub to the Old Republic, Joe, give it a try. Play the good Starfighter, not the crappy Starfighter stuff.
Do you have to be a subscriber to play it?
Do you? I don't know.
What does it say?
Then I definitely will never play it.
Provided.
Yeah, I don't.
Nope. Available to all players with a SWTOR account.
Yeah, you probably just have to. You probably just don't get as cool of stuff, or like, just like the other stuff. There's probably just some that you can't unlock unless you're a subscriber. Like there might be ships you can't get or whatever. So, and that mostly ends our journey. The only other thing
I got one more that you missed, actually.
Oh, what's that?
That I only noticed when I was Googling the arcade game. There was that Battle Pods game that came out a few years ago.
Yeah, that sucked. Though,
yes.
So.
I tried it once and it wasn't very fun, but it was another arcade thing where you sit in a pod and it was kind of another on-railsy. I think that's how it was. I think you just kind of move left, right, up and down and aim.
Yeah, pretty much. It was basically just exactly the same as the other the previous arcade games, just I thought even worse. But
better graphics.
Yeah, better graphics, but yet and so, at least in the one level I seem to remember it being like really hard to differentiate the ships from the background. And then also it costs like $7 zillion to play one to get one credit in the game. So that was fun. I remember playing that and being like, wow, I'm sure glad I just spent $10 on that. I think that's what it was, either $5 or $10 to play the game.
Wow.
I don't remember. It was expensive too. I put a lot in there, and then I was like, well, I'm doing it for the Jodo cast so I can get on the show and tell everybody how it was not worth it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think there is some episode back in the days of yore where we talk about how terrible it was.
Yeah. You better start from the beginning and listening to all the episodes so you can find it. Because I don't know which one it was.
This is like where we need, like, if at least with the video portion, like the old like VH1 like pop-up videos things, we can add that in later. I would say the episode number. So anyways, the last game I was going to mention is Star Wars Attack Squadrons, which probably doesn't sound very familiar to most people, is from, I believe, in 2014. Maybe it was either 2013 or 2014 that the game was first announced. It was a browser-based 3D combat game, space combat game using the Unity engine. And I think and then around, I think 2014 or so, it went into beta, and it was only in beta for like a couple months, and then they canceled the game. So don't know exactly what happened to it. I never got a chance to try the beta. I'm gonna guess it.
There's some footage of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess it probably sucked pretty hard. I played a few other like browser space combat games that were done with Unity, and they all sucked. It was like a universal thing with them.
Just being a browser-based game like blows my mind that is just a thing that they were trying to do. But like with this kind of like 3D fidelity and stuff, just doesn't seem like a platform. But I like the wiki article. It's funny. On May 23rd, 2014, it was announced that following the beta test, the decision was made to not go forward with the game, period. That's the whole thing. That's about most of the whole article on Wikipedia. It's like they played it and they're like, oh, okay, never mind.
And so thus ends our walk through history of, like I said, most Star Wars games. I forgot to put X-Wing Alliance on the list here.
Is that another in just the X-Wing series?
Yeah, it was just another one in the X-Wing series. I didn't like that one very much.
Falcon.
You know what? Honestly, flying the YT-1300s in that game, I thought was really awkward. I didn't like it. I just didn't like a lot about that game. I didn't like it. Had like a lot more story. Like it had like a fully voiced campaign and stuff. But I didn't like the story. You were like started out as like some dumb like I forget, like your family ran like a salvage yard or some shit like that, and I don't know. It was not good. I didn't think so. So there's that.
Yep. There you have it. Now you know the rest of the story.
Listeners can't see it, but me and Joe are both making like the same unimpressed face at Evan right now.
What? What? What's not to be impressed with?
How will Star Wars Squadrons stack up against this list? Find out in October.
Yeah, man, that's a long time to wait. I did order my first parts to build my new computer that will run Squadrons. So.
Ooh, fancy.
It's not gonna be that long. March was like the beginning of March was like 2 weeks ago.
No.
Yeah.
Like
just hibernate.
2 years ago.
It'll be here in no time.
I wouldn't mind that. You just sleep through the summer.
Yeah.
Although that's actually called estivating, not hibernating.
Ooh, I gotta look into this.
Emilio.
Oh,
Emilio
yes, Emilio estivating.
Ooh.
It was a worthy effort. Half a gold star for Joe.
No, I got the reaction I wanted.
Mission accomplished. Yeah, so October will be here before you know it, and we shall see. We certainly have quite a few people on the Discord looking forward to JodoCast team-ups, and another good reason to join the Discord, so you can find a squad.
Yeah, we've already Jodo Squadron is already recruiting and forming, and will be the best around.
It's a true story.
So, I think Battlefront was like the only one of these games that I had played, which is that I had played.
That's sad.
If I had to go pick one of these games, most of which I think are in my library on Steam. What should I start with?
I would say probably.
Should we do videos of me playing these?
I'd say either do TIE Fighter or Rogue Squadron.
The Rogue Squadron 3D was the PC version, and
I have. So it looks like I've got Rebel Assault 1+2, Rogue Squadron 3D, and X-Wing Special Edition.
Any one of those would be good ones. There is actually somewhere on our YouTube channel some really bad videos of me playing the first couple levels of Rogue Squadron. So
I might have actually taken those down.
Well,
they're not gone, but they might not be public anymore.
Well, that's okay. I was just going to tell.
Doing a little of
I was going to tell
cleanup.
everyone to not bother to go watch those.
they're not for public.
There were also some old videos of me playing Battlefront 2, and I took those down.
Aw. Do we still
Back
have
when
the
we were
video?
dipping our toes into the YouTube water.
Do we still at least have Leo playing Super Star Wars and Super Empire Strikes Back?
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
Super
there.
Return of the Jedi? Okay, good. That's the real gem. That's what you go to YouTube for.
Yeah, there's a playlist called Extra Life 2018. They're all in there.
I don't think that was really that exciting because like I was honestly by that because I was like playing that at like 4 a.m. or something like that.
Yes, you were.
I was like really tired by then to like I feel like I was obviously really pissed at that game because I played that what I do play that for like 2 hours or something like that and still never beat that sandcrawler level.
Well, I think we need to have some kind of fundraiser or pledge drive or something where we force you to play it. Maybe turn it into a drinking game for you at least. And
yeah. But yeah, it's by then I was way too tired to get as angry as I probably could have, should have, but I don't know.
Right.
I think there's at least if you really want to see me hear me rage at games, I think there's at least a couple battle chats out there where I'm cussing.
Oh, me too. That's when you hear me lose all control. But I'm going to take control of this and steer us towards the end.
Assuming direct control.
I understood that reference. Yes, so we're done with another episode of the JodoCast. Thank you, Leo, for all your hard work on putting this one together. Thank you, Joe, for your beard and mustache. Thank you, patrons, for making sure this happens. Thank you, listeners. And if you are only experiencing us through your ears, you've never experienced it on your small screen before. That was meant to be a reference to the special edition commercial. So
I got that.
Aha! Look at that.
Even though I didn't ever see the special editions in theaters.
But you still know it.
I was old enough to,
Yeah.
but I didn't.
You were a big boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, not
Big
that
Little Boy. Starring Dustin Hoffman. Alright, that's it for tonight. Come to the Discord, go to Patreon, and jump onto YouTube and watch us. Experience us.
Consume.
Consume our product. Good night.
Well, bye.
Bye.